Good evening. In the first video, we have seen why a digital transformation is a strategy. We have also seen that digital transformation is nothing but the entire the way the business changes its operations, its technology, its customer experience, and lot many areas. It is something that is going to impact everything. When we start speaking about digital transformation, it usually leads to four major outcomes. One, empowering the employees. Two, engage the customers. Three, optimize the operations. And four, transformation of the product. These are the four basic outcomes that usually happens in digital transformation. One of the major areas why digital transformation is taken care is profits. Any business has four major intents of doing the business. One, profits. Two, increasing the efficiency of the operations. Number three, exploring the ways to increase the customer experience. And four, return of investment to the investors. These are the four basic fundamental responsibilities or the criteria that every business is going to undertake, and a digital transformation is usually the outcome of these four activities. So when we start speaking about digital transformation, we know that it is a long-term strategy of implementation in different sectors. Now, what are the major areas or what are the major type of skills that is required for executing a digital transformation? There are basically 10 different areas of skills that is required in a digital transformation. Those are business models, customer journey mapping, service design blueprint, transformative technology, solution architecting, platforms and agile technology, user experience, digital marketing and growth hacking, change management, transition management frameworks. These are the 10 skills that are required to have a proper digital transformation project to be executed. It is not mandatory that everyone is going to have all these skills. Few of the people will gain expertise in few of the technologies or few of the areas of these particular 10 activities that has been mentioned here. However, it helps that any person who is actually into digital transformation knows the basic background of all these particular 10 skills. So let's get into it. The first one are business models. Business models is nothing but a view of how and why this particular business works. For example, every business will have a customer. The customer is a person who is highly critical in order to make sure that the business gets revenue. So when we look at a customer, the first thing which we look at is the customer persona, or let's look into customer segmentation, the geographic of the customers. That is where we look into the customers, the business model, how who is the customer, what is the specific areas of the customer that we are going to target. The second one is the value proposition. What is the value that we are going to give to the customers? What are the jobs that we are going to execute of the customers? What are the pain of the customers that we are trying to solve? These are part of the value propositions. The third one is the operation model. How are we going to deliver these particular values to the customer? Do we require partners? Do we require any infrastructures? Do we require any specific channels or whatever it is? These are the specific activities that actually says how the value propositions are delivered to the customers. And the fourth one is the revenue. What are the costs that are going to get incurred while we deliver the value to the customers, and how we are going to make the money? What are the kind of revenue streams that are a part of the business model? So when you look at a business model, it is nothing but the four pillars of the business: customers, operating model, value propositions, and revenue. How these are merged together to visualize everything. Now, when we start speaking of the business model, it is very important to understand that this requires a good specific domain knowledge of the customer, of the specific domain knowledge is extremely important because it helps us to understand the specifics or the nomenclature of the customers, and also how that particular industry works. There are not many varieties of business models applicable in the market. It may be a marketplace, it may be a freemium, it may be a premium. There are not many business models it is there. So when we start looking into a digital transformation activity, out of these four things: customers, operating models, value propositions, and revenue, it does impact either one or multiple areas of activities in a digital transformation. The second one is the customer journey. When we start speaking about a customer journey is nothing but how a customer transitions himself with respect to the integration, or with respect to the flow on to the business. It may be understand gaining the awareness of the brand or the business. How does he consider buying a product? When, where does he do the product, and what is the service, and what are the advocacy? These are purely basically what happens is that when a customer journey map happens, it looks at the flow or the emotions of how the customer responds in different activities. This changes from B2B and B2C. One of the most important thing that is required in customer journey mapping is understanding knowledge of the design thinking. That design thinking helps in making sure that we reciprocate properly to the journey maps. The third one is the service design blueprint. Service design blueprint is the ability and the framework to map, or to make sure to convert that into the digital blueprint of what we captured in the customer journey map. The mapping all the interactions that a customer is going to have for a big business. Usually all these interactions happen through a back-end process. So mapping all those activities of the customer workflow, the customer journey, to the specific back-end processes is nothing but the service design blueprint. When we start looking into the service design blueprint, it the next point that immediately starts is the technology. The backend processes requires technologies to be implemented. When we start looking into the digital transformation activities, there are few transformative technologies that are in place: social media, mobility, cloud, AI, Internet of Things, big data, and others like blockchain, chatbots. All these are a part of the transformative technology that will be used. The outcome is the innovation, analytics, and automation. These are the technologies that are going to enable the basically three major factors: innovation, analytics, and automations. Once the technology is in place, the next most important thing is envisioning a solution architecture. What we mean by envisioning a solution architecting is when we complete the customer journey mappings, we have completed the service design business process. Now we need to have something in place where we convert that into a system. what we call as a solution architecting. So the process of all converting it from the logical or the logical models or the customer journey mapping, the service design blueprints, more into a technology perspective is what we are going to call as the solution architect. This is probably one of the most tricky and difficult aspects in the overall the process of the digital transformation. And when we start looking into the solution architecting, it has different behaviors, how the user manages user traffics, he navigates through the systems. We have active structures, behavior structures, passive structures, how the actor transforms. Here the actor is nothing but a user, how a user collaborates to the system. If he is buying an insurance, how the insurance process navigates through the system, how a claim is managed, how the payments are being made, how the verification of the insurance is being done. So all these interactions of a particular user to the business process, all the system flow and the identification of the components, the frameworks and everything is a part of solution architecture. It is nothing but transforming the customer journey map and the solution design frameworks into a technology based system. That is what focuses on solution architecting. When we have finalized the solution architecting, then it comes building the platform. In a digital transformation, the most important that we need to understand is the velocity of the scale. It takes months to mobilize resources, start everything from scratch. Today we have lot many options. We have BPM tools like Bonita or Commado or lot many BPM tools. We can use them. We have lot many SaaS applications for almost each and every domain. Data analytics, Tableau, Power BI, Pentaho, and lot many things are available in data analytics. And today we also have lot many no-code platforms. Automations with respect to integrations, we have infrastructure services like AWS and algorithms. Algorithms as a service, we have ready-made algorithms, everything. So we don't need to build a system right from the scratch. A proper planning on how to use the available frameworks, open source tools, and integrate them in a better way so that the velocity is increased and the outcome of the system that is being envisioned in the solution architecture is in place as soon as possible. Digital transformation is scaling fast. So when you have finalized the platform, the next most important thing is how do we ensure that the technology or the solution platform that is there in place is there. It is with the agile. Agile is a culture. Agile is nothing but understanding something, going there, implementing, take the feedback, and come back and improve it iteratively. That is what we actually call as agile. So before agile, usually organizations work in silos, from organizations as machines to organizations as organisms. Organisms learn by itself and they start adapting and evolving. So agile based implementation will be a key to make sure that whatever we are doing in the process of digital transformation is feedback properly and we learn from the mistakes and go on increasing. It may be part of different activities, and agile involves every team members, finance, HR, marketing, logistics. When we start looking into digital transformation, it changes skills. It creates new set of responsibilities. The legacy, what you call the legacy responsibilities or the legacy skills are no longer valid. It gives a new set of responsibilities. Geographics, if you see this particular thing, when we go and specifically go and target an agile based customer service or agile based value creation to the customers, every activity that we perform is actually linked to a customer. The brand, product, segmentations, everything is linked to a customer, which means that the complete mindset is always dedicated for focusing on what we are doing to the customer, how we are serving it, so that it pays back in terms of additional revenue, customer satisfaction, and all other things. So agile is an extremely key definition of the mindset that needs to change and when we are implementing a digital transformation activity. And the next one, let's focus on the customer experience. This is something that actually makes or breaks a product. The customer experience is usually highly targeted, fragmented to the customer segments, different customer segments. So it usually involves performing competitor analysis, specific customer analysis, how the product is being used by the customer, how he behaves, how the product has to be structured. It also have what we call as information catalogs. Then the content alignment. Each segment of customer might require a different kind of the content so that they are emotionally attached and they start responding to the different touch points of the customer journey map. Then creating the wireframes, how the navigation of the wireframes happen from one particular widget to another particular widget, how the interaction of the system, that is what we call as human computer thinking, HCI, human computer interfaces, how those things are happening. And then we have the usage statistics. We will know at what instance the the customer is behaving in a different way. So a few times, for example, if we look at an e-commerce, we know that at a certain point of time, there is a drop in the customer navigation. And if the customer navigation drop is exceeding at a specific point, it means that there is a drop in the customer experience or there is a gap in the customer expectations at that particular point of time. Understanding those statistics and implementing back the modifications of those statistics into the product is extremely critical to make sure that customers are standing by you. But today the customers expects a continuous non-stop customer experience, continuous, constant, customized, and cross channel. That is what we usually call as the 4 C's of customer experience. It goes from promising to promising something to the customer and make sure that we are actually delivering the value to the customer. That is what is part of the customer experience framework. So once the customer experience framework is there, we have a lot of things that we need to do in order to make sure that the customer knows who we are, who the business is. Opening a business, running a business, and not performing a digital marketing is like we're not telling anyone that we are doing something. The digital marketing frameworks are the areas that help to make sure that the message goes to the customers that we are here. We are here. We are here to serve you. It creates a sort of a branding, a magnet, and everything so that the customers are driven into the sales funnel. So when you start looking into the sales funnel, there is something called as growth hacking. Growth hacking is nothing but a combination of a creative marketing and automation and engineering experiments on the data. We have spoken about statistics earlier. All these combining into a small activity is called as a growth hacking. This is extremely important, especially to the digital products, because growth hacking focuses on what do you call as the LTV, or LTV and the customer acquisition cost. Growth hacking is a framework that inculcates a specific activities within itself into the product to make sure that the product sells itself to the customer, which means that the customer acquisition cost will come down and the lifetime value of the customers is going to increase. This helps the marketing team to focus more on existing customer conversions rather than trying to find a new set of customers from the market. After all this there, the solution is built, then we go on and implement into the system. Obviously, we see a lot of things that happen onto the system. It changes the process, it changes the mindset, it changes a lot many things. That is where the change management model is going to come. When you start speaking of change management, it has its own resistances, it has its own learnings and everything. But the few things that we need to do is the motivations to change has to create it, specific visions, the specific KPIs, specific OKRs. All these have to be created, a support system to be in place, and a transition activity has to be made. So all these have to be part of the each and every process that is getting implemented as a part of digital transformation. Change management is actually one of the most toughest part of the digital transformation and is frankly called as the cream of the digital transformation activities. Once the change is done, the process is being implemented. So all this happens with a proper transition in place. When you start looking into it, it truly starts changing the existing processes, existing procedures, the way the people behave, the way the staff behave, the way the customers change interacting with the brands. Everything is going to change. So the process of this particular change from one activity to another activity is what we call as the transition. When you start looking into the transition, it starts from an uncertainty. So we have something, we have planned something, a specific activity is going to start. So an uncertainty is there. So we are moving up from uncertainty to skepticism. So we explore what we have to do there, and then it starts a new beginning. So this is the transition activity that usually happens for every process that has been identified. This transition process goes through the learning curves, and it starts paying back at certain point of time when we start implementing each and every learning activity that we have made. So these are primarily the 10 skills that will be used while we are executing a digital transformation activity. Thank you.